Now,
How close
breaking
are you?
news
Is it,
from CBS
this
17
big?
News.
This big? And talk us through what it's going to be like when you actually, and we're gonna be optimistic, see a launch this evening.
I'm cautiously optimistic, which is what all of these mission managers really have been over the last month or so, which is really cool. I'm actually going to step out of the way, though, and let photographer Joey Capistrand here zoom in so you can see it just a little bit closer. I know you have some different camera views, but this is my view. 3.5 miles away from that launch pad, 39B. Those astronauts drove right by us just a few hours ago before they got into their capsule and got strapped in. So that was pretty cool to see when you're 3.5 miles away from the world's, the world's operational, most powerful rocket. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty loud. I was here in 2022 when it launched for Artemis I. And you could feel it when I tell you those solid rocket boosters create this thumping in your body. You feel it. All the car alarms went off, so I'm anticipating that again. Hoping though for a daytime launch, which would be really cool because that last one was at 3 o'clock in the morning, so it was kind of dark.
Amanda, what is the plan for if this does extend into the evening? What is the latest this could launch? I mean, we're paying close attention to, countdown holds, if that's something that arises. What is the contingency plan if we don't have an early window launch? And if this does, I know I don't want to speak it into existence, but if it does not happen today, what actually takes place in the days ahead?
Yeah, so let's talk about it. So you talked about the 6-minute hold earlier. That is a built-in holding position in case they are working through any issues. They can stop there. The countdown clock is okay to pause at that point for, a specific amount of time. They have this 2-hour window. We keep talking about this 6:24 time, but in fact they have until 8:24 to launch, and that is in case they have to work through any issues. So they'll have some time if they can't figure out this battery temperature issue here in the next 30 or so minutes. They will hold at that 6-minute mark until they can hopefully resolve it and then launch before that 8:24 time frame. If they can't launch today, which again, we're not speaking that into existence, they do have windows for tomorrow and actually each evening through the 6th. Now, they won't try each evening. Mission managers continue to say they have 4 out of 6 of these days to try. So at some point, they'll have to do what is called a 48-hour scrub instead of a 24-hour scrub. So they'll wait 2 days before they try again.
Amanda, I know you have other live reports to give to our partner stations as part of Next Star Nation, but I want to let you know Kennedy Space Center on X saying, quote, weather has improved to 90% go. The closeout crew has completed work and will depart the pad soon. Teams are still working the battery reading on the launch abort system. So, hey, weather conditions now improving, and we're hoping that on the technical side, things improve as well. Amanda, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll hopefully catch up with you a little bit later on in the stream.
Thanks, guys.
All right, back here in the Stream Center with Garrett Phillips, Josh Scott. I'm JB Buno. Welcome in. That's good news.
Yeah.
Weather improving. Justin was right. Did you ever doubt him?
No, I never doubt Justin on anything he says.
See, Justin's all fired up because Amanda's been on it. We have meteorologist Zuleika Soler in here as well. Rebecca Barry's downstairs on air. The Max Fender 8 weather team has been all over this for several days now, projecting and really forecasting what the weather is going to be in this very small window of 2 hours beginning here in just over half an hour from now. So hopefully folks are feeling as optimistic as our meteorologists are, and hopefully NASA getting closer to figuring out all these technical issues so that we have a lunar launch a little bit later on, a launch for the moon a little bit later on today. Fellas, checking in. Anything else that you're spotting? Anything else you're seeing? And then we're going to check in with the chat here as well.
I mean, outside of the 90% go for in terms of the weather that we've just talked about, really all eyes continue to be now on this new battery issue that has cropped up. And it says it's apparently one of the 2 batteries, as we mentioned before, on that abort system. Once they hopefully are able to clear that and make sure that it is ready, then it seems like we are kind of really in the final stretch of it. I know we talked about that just a moment ago, and that was before the other issue crops up. So if I say it again, knock on wood, hopefully nothing else pops up. But that's what we're kind of looking at here. So now it's just all eyes on that battery and see if that issue can be resolved in time for this launch window.
Yeah, and based on the vibes I'm reading over here on my end, I'm still feeling good. I have lost any nihilism towards this event. We are full optimism, full optimist mode, and man, I'm excited. I feel like, I don't know about
Do you like space, Josh? I couldn't tell. I just want to know.
I might be a little bit of a nerd for this stuff. It is crazy to think about the comparisons to the Apollo missions. It's something that I've been able to look back and watch clips of. We've all seen, the steps on the moon, but now in our own lifetime, we're seeing progress towards that. I don't know. It's kind of surreal. I don't think it's like hit me that this is what we're watching. Right. But to get, the type of footage of the moon that we're going to get back after this takes place in the coming days, it's awesome.
Let's walk let's moonwalk our audience through. By the way, we're here for all the puns. Let's moonwalk our audience through exactly what we are expecting from a coverage standpoint. Of course, as soon as we get updates from NASA, we pass them along here on the live stream. We're also paying close attention to the radar and satellite with our meteorologists here as part of the Max Fender 8 weather team that have been on point with this really all week long. So as we get closer, what is going to happen is, as we get closer to maybe T-minus 10 minutes or so, that's when we're going to listen in to the broadcast. I'm sure there's going to be that, yes, the historic call that will be played over and over again for not just live, but for millions of people, but will go down in history as the historic call for the launch itself. We will be listening in on that and presenting that coverage here live. Also want to let you know, we worked with NASA yesterday. That's always fun to say, right, Josh, to say that we worked with NASA. It's a cool thing to say. We were working with NASA yesterday to bring everybody here on the live stream and across Nexstar Nation the most latency-free version of this video feed as possible. It's a long way of saying minimal delay. We're trying to just cut down all the hoops that this video feed has to jump through and presenting it to you as close to real time as possible. There is no scenario with the way that the internet works for us to be able to present the launch as it happens, like live. It'll be on a delay, but we have worked with NASA to minimize that delay as much as possible so that when you see it, it's as close to when it's actually happening as technically possible. So this is a live picture here from the launch pad. This is Launch Complex 39B at Kennedy Space Center, and the splashdown expected in the Pacific Ocean in about 10 days from now, should launch actually occur today on April 1st, 2026. Any other notes before we continue to move on and we bring in our guest here, our next guest in about 3 or 4 minutes time?
I mean, Josh, I think you talked to this about this to Professor Neal earlier in our conversation. But this is kind of that first step into what is going to be a multi-year journey back to the moon. Right? They're launching this rocket, this shuttle. Shuttle's not the right word, but they're launching this mission to the moon to go and kind of explore that dark side of the moon. They're going to wrap around the moon before slingshotting back to Earth to kind of just prepare for what is coming ahead in the next 2 years. In 2027, they're going to do another launch with the Artemis II that is going to kind of be a docking practice for the astronauts before the plan is to put people's feet back on the moon by 2028. I mean, that is what this is. This is not just a sightseeing mission, if you will. This is the start of something that hasn't happened in a long time.
No, they are gonna have some sights that they're gonna see. They're gonna take high quality photos of the moon, the highest quality that has ever existed in humanity. Like, that's happening. But they're also testing very important things like ways to shield against deep space radiation, which is a step we need to take if we are to one day go to Mars, right? So there's a ton of things that are being studied here, and it's an incredible time we live in, and it's really, really exciting to be here and see it happen.
Imagine talking to, let's say one of the astronauts from the Apollo, for example, did a very similar mission to this all those years ago with computers that were less powerful than like the things that we carry in our pockets today. Imagine telling them what type of technology they would have if this was the mission that they were going on. It would just shock everybody, really. And that's how far we have come, because it's not like the Apollo is ancient history. It's history, but it happened within some people's lifetimes that are still alive today. So it's not like, this is a huge leap in advancement for technology for space travel that has just kind of occurred in the past couple of decades, and that's really impressive.
So we have Artemis II that we hope has an April 1st, 2026 launch. Artemis III next year, mid-2027, which we hope, of course, for a lunar landing if everything is going according to NASA's plan. And then beyond that...
Lunar landing would be 2028 for Artemis IV.
Oh.
Artemis III is the lunar lander, which is a docking practice.
I'm sorry. Yes, I misspoke. Let's bring in... I think we have our next guest in the Zoom room. Let's bring in our next guest.
Absolutely.
Josh, would you care to do the introduction?
Yes, this is a very special guest to have for an event like this. There's an introduction's long. Lewis and Elizabeth Shirk, I might have butchered that, but distinguished professor of Earth, Environment, and Planetary Sciences at Brown University, worked with NASA during the Apollo missions, helping select lunar landing sites, training astronauts in geology, supporting mission operations, and analyzing return moon samples, and a ton more. Has published more than 750 scientific papers. I'm joined now by Dr. James Head III. How are you doing, Dr. Head?
Great, Josh. This is an exciting time, and it's so great people like you, somewhat younger than I am, are able to witness this and be part of it. It's great.
Are you excited? I mean, just jumping straight into it, having worked on the Apollo mission and experienced a lot of the things that are going on right now at NASA, what is your reaction to seeing all of the Artemis missions and all the buildup take place?
Well, it's absolutely fantastic. The thing of it is, during Apollo, we had incredible scientific results from the moon. And, but there were a lot of things going on in the country, which caused it to be paused for a while, but NASA was not asleep at this time. You can know, I'm sure all of you know, that NASA has had the International Space Station, which has had astronauts on board for the last 25 years plus. Okay, so we need to learn about how we go on these long-term trips. We're designing at Brown a 500-day design reference mission, which is basically 500 days because that's how long we're going to stay on Mars. And so really important that we're picking up now with the next steps, pretty well prepared with the knowledge about how humans can accommodate to space for long-term duration. So this is a test flight, if you will. It's a kind of dress rehearsal for the ultimate landing with Artemis, and then beyond that, essentially setting up a station on the moon, and then from that, working to go on to Mars.
Absolutely. Speaking of the preparation, right? You have a very unique view on this situation. What insights do you really have about the planning that goes on behind the scenes to get a launch like this to take place, to get a vehicle into orbit?
Well, it reminds me of what John Glenn said, one time when he asked him early on, what are you most worried about? He said, well, how would you like to be sitting on top of a rocket which is made of 50,000 individual parts, all supplied by the lowest bidder? I mean, whoa, that's really not what you want to say. But the point is here that the integration is the critical issue. When I worked for NASA, I was a systems engineer. I never had a course in engineering, and I didn't even know what a systems engineer was. But it is really thinking your way to the moon and back, and that's the integration of everything. So you can't just push a button and launch this thing. Everything has to work together, which is really a power and demonstration of capability well beyond anything military. It's like, hey, if they can get that rocket off the ground and to the moon, and like we did in Apollo many, many times, then, this is a country to be respected, and we want to be part of that endeavor. So that it's really important for scientific results, but it's also important for national pride and prestige. And it brings young people like you into, the science and technology field, or the field you're in, which is really helping us spread the word.
So you'll have to forgive me for asking this next question, which you could go many different routes with. But the technology, clearly different now, right? How has the technology changed between the Apollo missions and now? And are there things that we can do now that you're particularly excited for that maybe we couldn't have been options during those Apollo missions?
Yeah, I think that, it's been over 50 years. And so, think about what's changed in your lifetime. Think about what's changed in 50 years. It's a huge amount. So fuel cell, all kinds of technological developments which are enabling us to stay longer, you still have the basic rocket equation. You got to get the puppy off the ground, so to speak. So, that's basically the same, but there's new research on the different kinds of fuels and how you use them and how you optimize them. All of these things contribute to that overall overarching structure of integration that I mentioned to you. So at each step of the way, I couldn't even begin to tell you, which individual things has been, increased technology, because they all have, and they're all integrated together. It's fabulous.
I'd like to just hop in here. Dr. Head, we have an update from NASA, and I'm going to communicate this out to our audience. I'm going to read as follows, quote, engineers investigated a sensor on the launch abort system's, let's see here, attitude control motor controller battery that showed a higher temperature than would be expected. It is believed to be an instrumentation issue and will not affect today's launch. The weather continues to cooperate and has now been upgraded to 90% go for launch. So it sounds like they are obviously, really microanalyzing every inch or centimeter of this entire spacecraft to make sure that everything is good for launch, but basically any issues that arise are going to let us know about. How big is transparency in your opinion? It sounds like every tiny itsy bitsy detail that is coming through in the pre-launch window, we're getting access to as the public. That level of transparency is welcome, but of course, as we find out about this, we're on the edge of our seat even more, finding out whether or not we're actually going to have a launch.
Yeah, no, it's really important. Transparency is the name of the game. You can't be hiding anything. This is the whole point. It's a test flight. It's a dress rehearsal. If the star of the show falls sick or something like this, like a piece is something is not working, you stop the thing and fix it. And that's no question about that. So don't be disappointed if at the last second or minute, there's an issue and there's a hold on the launch, because that's telling you that we've discovered something that's not ready. And what you just cited was a really good example of, like, okay, we're looking at this and we have a way to look at these sensors, and this one is interpreted to mean that it's a onboard sensor that is malfunctioning. And I've been on an airplane where we had to do a return landing with fire engines and everything like that. Well, it turned out to be some sensor in the airplane that was malfunctioning. So, we need to pay attention to these things for sure. And that's the beauty of NASA, the beauty of the integration. We're not going if we're not ready, period.
What's your expectation for the next 20 minutes?
Well, just hang in there and wait. That's all I can tell you. So, anomalies can appear at any time. It can appear at any time. So I'm optimistic that we're going to launch, but I would never say, oh, wait, no, go ahead and launch. Don't worry about that. I want to know what's wrong with the spacecraft or what issues there are, and we need to fix them, because this is just a test flight. If we don't fix them, then we're not doing our job. We're just not doing our job.
Josh, any final questions for our guest?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's done such a good job of answering this in multiple ways. But for everybody watching, I think it's something that I've learned, at least over the past couple of days, is we see NASA send these rockets up, but NASA has impacted us in our daily lives in more ways than one. So I'm curious, what are some tangible ways that missions like these do impact the day-to-day lives here on Earth?
Well, it's interesting. When John Young, the Apollo 16 commander, came back from the moon, a reporter asked him, well, gee, why do we spend all this money on the moon? And he said, we didn't leave one penny on the moon, by which he means all the money that goes into this is spent with jobs here on the Earth, okay, and increasing technology. And, Dave Scott has this wonderful, the Apollo 15 commander has this wonderful image of the computer on the Apollo 11 lander and all the Apollo landers and a smartphone. And it's like orders of magnitude different, orders of magnitude. And miniaturizing those things for space is what brings it to us here on the ground and at home. So it all works out. It's really powerful. I'd like to say thank you very much, NASA. Thank you very much, everybody. It's your tax dollars at work. And I haven't heard anybody who tells me that they don't think it's a good investment.
You've worked with multiple astronauts leading up to a launch just like this. And you talked a little bit about, hey, how would you like to be strapped on, a rocket that went to the lowest bidder in that comment. But really, we haven't touched on it yet. What is going on in the astronauts' minds right now? How are they able to keep it all together for something that's got to be one of the most stressful experiences on and off this planet?
Well, Josh, there's a simple answer to that. They're astronauts. Okay. So they really, these are some of the most amazing students I've ever worked with in my life. They're just totally dedicated, et cetera. And, even learning the geology. When Dave Scott came back from the moon, he told me, Jim, I had so much fun doing the geology that I didn't even know I had my spacesuit on. And, I'd be looking over my shoulder to make sure the Earth was still there, you know what I mean? But he was just like, he said, it's like in sports, you're in the zone, you're at bat, there's 100,000 people screaming, and you don't even know it because you're having so much fun doing that in the zone. So that's a good example of their dedication. If they didn't think there was, an 80 to 90% chance of the mission being successful, they wouldn't go. They're in on all these decisions as the thing goes along, mission reviews, et cetera. And it's all a really important integrated effort so that you get confidence from that. And then it's your job, it's your mission. You're checking out the systems, et cetera. And these are people who are very, very even keeled, and they have a great situational awareness. They're fighter pilots for the most part, which is important because, it's not like I'm a geologist looking out the window at the rocks down there. No. I mean, that's good, Jim, but later, okay? They're astronauts, okay?
Absolutely.
Apologies, that was a mispunch there. So, Dr. Head, I'm just curious, if it were you, if you're there right now at Kennedy Space Center and you're strapped in, getting ready for the launch window opening up here in about 15 minutes time, you're about to get launched into space, potentially with 8.8 million pounds of launch thrust, and you're about to embark on a 1.3 million mile journey. Some of the stats that I have here that are just utterly mind-boggling. What would be going through your head if it were you being strapped into SLS and being launched into deep space?
Well, I think it would be not so much on the trip, so much as, okay, making sure all the systems are go. We got to take a look at this. The astronauts have a whole series of dials and things like that are telling them the status of things. So they're part of the process here. They're actually calling out numbers, et cetera, to the mission control people, to the launch readiness group, et cetera. And so they're part of the process. So they're not sitting there just kind of anxiously waiting. Trust me on that. And it's in their best interest to do this. This is their job, a step at a time, a step at a time. After they launch, they'll go through main engine cutoff. They'll, all these kinds of things. It's busy up there. Trust me. Okay. And so you're thinking about the next steps. You're thinking about the, individual things you're supposed to be doing as part of your job. And that's why you have the 4 astronauts. And by the way, they're all fantastically great. Okay. Reed Wiseman, the commander, has been up here to Brown for geological training. I've worked with all the other ones in their early training career, et cetera. And it's a stupendous crew, really incredible.
Absolutely. Dr. Ed, one more question for you. Given your context, right? All the Apollo work that you've done and then getting to see Artemis here, kind of a two-parter. Is there a question that you hope that Artemis answers that maybe Apollo wasn't able to? Or is there something that you want Artemis to accomplish?
Well, I think for this Artemis II mission, I want them to have a safe flight so that we can then use that as the basis to press on and go on to the next upcoming Artemis missions. And for Artemis in general, we're going to the South Polar region. We've never been there before. Maybe there's water there. We need to understand that. Is this a place where we can actually get sort of ore grade ice water so we can not have to carry all that to the moon, but we can actually use that on the moon to go on to Mars and live off it on the moon, et cetera. So these are the kind of questions. It's the thing about science is it's just simply, we can make it sound really complicated, okay? And we do that, unfortunately. But the simple answer is science is simply the exploration of the unknown. And that's what these people are doing. That's what they're doing. They're pushing the envelope, and they're helping us all to see the future and get perspective on the past.
Fantastic.
Dr. Head, thank you so much for joining us here on stream. Where are you going to be watching, and how are you going to be watching the launch?
Well, I teach at Brown University. I'm in Providence, Rhode Island right now, and we're watching the launch.
Terrific. Well, our fingers are crossed here. I'm sure yours are as well up there in Providence. And thanks so much for joining us here on stream in Florida. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate all your insights.
Very, very much a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Go Artemis II.
Go Artemis II. Man, we're getting close now. Now we're getting really close, and I'm getting extremely excited as we're about 12 minutes away from the opening of the launch window. Again, if you're just joining us, perhaps you're just logging on, maybe finding our live stream, whether it be on social media or whether it be of course, on one of our Nexstar apps as part of Nexstar Nation. Welcome into the Stream Center in Tampa, Florida. We're on the Gulf Coast side of Florida. We're paying close attention on the East Coast of Florida, the Atlantic Coast of Florida, where the Kennedy Space Center is getting everyone who's gathered there getting ready for what we hope is going to be history. As there you see it there in the center of your screen. Let's go full screen if we can and take you there, because this is going to be the shot that everyone's watching, right? SLS Orion heading for deep space for a 1.3 million mile journey around the moon. Guys, how we feeling? We can welcome Justin back in, our meteorologist. With the weather conditions, we haven't spoken to you since the weather conditions apparently, according to NASA, improving to a 90% go. So feeling pretty good.
Yeah, feeling good. We kind of made that call here in the Max Defender 8 Weather Center, and then we got official word from NASA now up to a 90% chance for a go there, and that is excellent news from Launchpad 39B as a live shot there with the Atlantic in the background over in Brevard County, and the launch window is still 6:24 this evening, guys, and the excitement is just palpable here in this room.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I mean, every conversation we've had has been, I don't know how you can't listen to them, and maybe I'm biased because I'm sitting in the conversations, but I don't know how you don't sit there and go, man, this is awesome. Being able to jump back, talk to someone who actually worked on the Apollo missions and contextualize what this means for us. It's awesome stuff.
And with each passing minute, we're getting closer and closer to this happening, so you can just, really feel that energy there.
Let's check in with the NASA live broadcast and see exactly what's being said on NASA Plus.
Demodulated SNR estimate that went down to 2 dBm when it should have been between 10 and 13. It is now back up to 12, but we did lose that for just a moment. It does not appear that we lost our bit sync or carrier lock, which would be indicative that we lost our lock with the vehicle. So at this point, recommendation would still be go. However, we do have a pre-planned contingency procedure if we want to look at that. But again, this is transient, so we're back in a nominal range.
All right, let's see, LPE NTD.
Yeah, we're not seeing that hit. So I guess the question for COSE, was that less than 3 samples? Was that below our persistence?
Stand by, let me look. It did look like it did persist for several seconds on mine, but let me take a look at the number of samples.
Could I get a repeat on the affected LCC, please?
Yes, ma'am. That's going to be O-CT-004.
Thank you.
Yeah, us taking a look at the data right here, looks like that was a single sample.
Yeah, copy that. RFTS does report that they also lost lock for about 5 seconds. So I would love to ask KUS and see if they also lost lock with the vehicle for any extended amount of period.
And COSE, while we're doing that, these are 1/10 hertz measurements, correct? So we would have had to lose it for over 10 seconds to get a second sample?
Yes, sir, that's correct. It is 1/10 hertz.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the allowance is effectively up to 30 seconds, up to 3 samples based on the 1/10 hertz. This is not an LCC violation, I believe.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that at this point. Copy that.
We're checking with KUS on 232. I don't think they have 212 access. We're trying to verify, but it sounds like they have a loss of lock as well. About 2 seconds.
Okay. And I guess for both KUS and COSE, do we have lock now?
That's affirmed. We do have lock for COSE.
Yeah, so from the integration console perspective, we did have a temporary loss there within the allowable, and per the requirement, let's go.
And this is Houston Flight. We have lock and we have good telemetry here in GSE.
And KUS has reported too, they have good lock now. So with all of that, OSC, then are we in a go configuration per your LCC?
Yes, sir. Recommendation would be go.
Okay. LPE, you concur with that?
Yes, sir. LPE concurs go.
And Launch Director?
Yes, sir. Launch Director concurs go.
All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just verify everybody has everything else complete, Launch Director, and if we do, we'll be ready to pick up the poll at that time, unless there's something else that you're aware of.
No, sir. Let's verify all our work is complete, and I would like one last check of our constraints list.
All right, let's see. OTC, are you still waiting for ComConfig, or are you
That is
complete with
affirmed,
everything?
sir.
Okay, is that your only open item?
Yeah, OTC, this is CVSC. That 400 step 290 is complete. Copy.
Okay, so OTC, you're complete with all of your work?
That's affirmed.
All right, copy that. STC?
STC is complete.
And GTC?
GTC is complete.
Okay, excellent. All right, and LPE, just want to verify we have no open constraints at this time.
No open constraints. We have a clear board, sir.
Okay, tracking the same here. And Launch Director, with that, we are clear and ready to pick up the launch readiness poll with your go.
All right, sir. I am go for the poll.
All right. And for all personnel, this is the NTD conducting the Artemis II launch readiness check. Verify ready to resume count and go for launch. OTC.
OTC is go.
STC.
STC is go.
GTC.
C's go.
MCO.
CO's go.
Safety Console.
The Safety Council is go.
LPE.
LPE's go.
RTD.
RTD's go.
Houston Flight.
Houston flight is go.
ROC.
Rock is go.
And CDR.
Cruise go.
Copy that. Thank you, Reed. And Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
All right, NTD, I copy all. At this time, I'll perform my poll. Attention on the net. This is the Launch Director performing the final poll for launch. Verify no constraints and go for launch. EGS, Program Chief Engineer.
Artemis Chief Engineers are go.
Copy, thank you. EGS, Chief Safety Officer.
The Artemis CSOs are go.
Copy, thank you. Range Weather.
Launch weather is go.
Thank you, LWO. And Artemis MMT Chair.
MMTs go.
Thank you, John. And Integrity Launch Director.
Good Air Voice, Charlie, PLT.
Thank you, Charlie. This is Victor. We are going for our families.
MS1.
This is Christina. We are going for our teammates.
MS2. This is Jeremy. We are going for all humanity. All right, Charlie, your Artemis II crew is go for launch. Full send.
I copy that. Reed, Victor, Christina, and Jeremy. On this historic mission, you take with you the heart of this Artemis team, the daring spirit of the American people and our partners across the globe, and the hopes and dreams of a new generation. Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go. And into the Launch Director.
Go ahead, Launch Director.
Yes, sir. You have a go to proceed with countdown.
Copy that. I'll put it in work. CDR, NTD.
Go.
Figure risers and initiate short purge per your EPROC 10.1.1, steps 8 and 9.
10.1.1, 8 and 9 going to work.
Copy. CVSC NTD, start and verify recordings of our Orion cameras.
Copy.
Okay. Well, there you heard it.
RSR NTD.
RSR.
They're getting ready to start terminal count.
arm rotation enable at this time, please.
It's currently at T-minus 10 minutes. Once we wrap up this last bit of work,
SNA arm rotation enable complete.
we're going to start that clock.
Copy that. Thank you.
Integrity crew, close and lock visors.
You heard an issue, worked in real time with telemetry lock on the Orion. It was transitory. It was very short. They checked the data, confirmed that they had a good lock. This was with the S-band transmitter on the Orion. Worked through that issue, looked at the data, and cleared it. All with the world watching. Impressive work by the launch team. So we have a 2-hour window, which starts in just a few minutes at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time and goes until 8:24 p.m. Eastern Time.
And ECL NTD will be waiting for your verification on the short purge.
ECL copies.
And for all personnel, once we get that short purge verification, we'll verify that we are clear to go, and then we'll proceed with the terminal count. ECL time estimate?
About a minute.
Copy.
So we're going into the launch window, but not by much, it looks like. Just wrapping up some final work. And once that's completed, you'll hear NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding ask for the ground launch sequencer operator to go ahead and start the clock. The ground launch sequencer is an application software. It runs on top of the launch control system in the firing room, acts like a conductor of an orchestra, executing hundreds of commands in precise order and timing. It's all autonomous.
NTD CCL 212, short purge initiation is verified.
All right, copy that, and we're verifying our constraints. All right, and we're clear from cutouts. And with that, we're going to resume the clock momentarily. And CGLS, you can resume the clock on your mark.
GLS copies. 3, 2, 1, mark. GLS mainline has been initiated.
T-minus 10 minutes and counting.
And that begins terminal count. Our new T0 is 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. 6:35 p.m. Eastern Time. We are now counting down to liftoff of Artemis II. From now on, you're going to hear two voices on the loops. If everything goes nominally, NASA Test Director Jeff Spaulding, who's directly managing the launch team, and Alex Bendelos, the GLS operator who closely monitors the software. He has the ability to stop and restart the countdown. A lot of people ask about whether there's a launch button. There certainly is not.
Flight and Rock, our new T0 is 22:35:12.
Houston flight copies.
Rock copies. 22:35:12.
Affirm.
There you heard confirmation of the exact T0, 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Again, our T0 is 6:35 and 12 seconds p.m. Eastern Time.
As we welcome you back in the stream center, Josh, you want to say the words? I know that you want to say the words, right?
I feel like we should say Stream Center is go.
Stream Center
well.
is go for launch. I know Amanda Holly is go for launch. Let's bring in Amanda if she is in fact dialed in. I don't know actually if she is dialed in at the moment. No, that looks like that. We'll come back to Amanda Holly. Welcome in everybody to countdown coverage for the Artemis II from the Stream Center. JB Buno, Josh Scott, Garrett Phillips, NASA correspondent Amanda Holly, meteorologist here at WFLA, will be joining in shortly once, of course, we have her on the call. Speaking of being on the call, you just heard them resume the countdown. You heard the words "Let's go," and I have to be honest, everybody, chills, of course, down my spine, goosebumps. Yeah, I had them.
Teared up.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff, guys. How are we feeling as we get closer to launch time?
Look at that. Look at the removing the bridge, the walkway right now. I mean, it is just. I'm feeling. I don't even really know how to describe what I'm feeling. I'm feeling an excitement that I don't know that I can equate to having felt in my life to this type of event, because it's so unique. And I don't know. I remember as a kid reading the books on interstellar travel, stuff like that. Right now, Project Hail Mary is a huge, cultural thing. And so the timing of all of this, I think, I'm sure NASA is loving it, right? Having a major motion picture about space travel where NASA is a huge part of it, coincide with the actual launch of a rocket carrying astronauts. I mean, I'm incredibly excited, clearly.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't tell. I've not seen this excited since, I've known you, and you're, Patriots went to the Super Bowl. I've known you. So you're more excited now than you were there. And that's saying something if you know Josh Scott. So we're on that final countdown approach. We're only about 6 minutes, 40 seconds before the Artemis II is going to launch. It's going to take a trip that is over the course of, I think he said 4 to 8 days is what we had learned, where it's going to circle the moon before slingshotting back to Earth. So, it's a really exciting time. We're literally minutes away from the beginning of kind of a multi-stage journey to get astronauts' feet back onto the moon itself.
It's so crazy, really thinking, like, on my way in today, I think it hit me for the first time. The end goal here, as described at a press conference last week, is to have a base on the moon. And that doesn't just mean, we're going to go visit to the moon. No, that means having astronauts be able to eat, sleep, drink water, and maintain existence and presence on the moon. Like, that. You talk about one small step for man, right? That's a giant step for man, and a giant step towards the concept of colonizing Mars as well. All of these things feel like they were science fiction, and now we look towards our future, and we're actively walking down the path to make them science reality.
So, Josh, I'm just going to assume, based on how excited you are for this mission, that once they decide that they are going to settle on the moon, you're going to be one of the first people that signs up?
Listen, it was brought up in my conversation with Dr. Clive and Dr. Neal that the uniqueness of this, right, is we're at a time where the private sector is actively developing these rockets. Mm-hmm. And actually, you got to give some credit to the private sector, because SpaceX developed a lot of technology that has allowed for the consistency in rocket flights that we've had. I mean, every week there's a satellite launch or a launch to bring things to the ISS, it feels like. And so now that exists, this idea that the private sector is then going to try to make it as if space travel is as frequent as flying from Tampa to San Diego, for example. It's a crazy concept to even wrap your mind around, because it's so extraordinary. It's so foreign, I think, to really believe. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago reading The Martian and going, yeah, that's cool. But like, will we ever get there? And hopefully not all the events of The Martian take place, right? But to even be able to conceptualize, that might be something that we will see in our lifetimes. Maybe we'll even have the ability to ride into orbit ourselves as a tourist. I mean, it's hard to truly grasp what this could mean. It's incredible.
Let's see. I believe we might now have Amanda Holly for a brief moment. Amanda, if you've got us, we're getting closer to launch. Do you have us? No, I don't think.
She just shot me a message. So
okay.
Yes, and then.
Well, Amanda's gonna get ready for the launch with really.
We
do have her. Okay, Amanda.
Yes, I do.
Perfect.
Amanda, how are you? Check on in.
I'm good. Both of you guys are talking to me, just so you guys know, both control rooms.
Understood. Take it away, Amanda. We'll follow your lead.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Daniel, if you can hear me, I did hear your request.
All right, so we'll come back to Amanda. Let's check in now on the live broadcast. Let's listen in.
Moving through the milestones. All is looking good. Coming up in just a few seconds, we're going to get that thrust vector control actuator test. This is a gimbling of the engines. There are the 4 RS-25s, 3 of them Shuttle Heritage, 1 of them built from shuttle parts. And there you see them moving. Now we're going to start moving the power from both the upper stage and the lower stage of the rocket to internal, taking ground power away and now going to battery power.
GLS is go for upper stage to internal power.
All right, power is removed from the rocket's upper stage, the ICPS, and it's been switched to battery. Same milestone for the lower core stage coming up at T-minus 1 minute and 30 seconds. Right now, the 4-person Artemis II crew is 248,000 miles away from the moon. And if all goes well, they will fly by it in 6 days.
GLS is go for core stage to internal power.
All right, there's the rocket's core stage, which houses 3 flight computers, is now on its own power. There's no more hold time because there's no more margin on these batteries. So we would have to recycle back to T-minus 10 to recharge if we had a hold.
One minute.
Right now, the rocket does not know what the T0
Everybody
is,
watching here across Next Star Nation, we are now T-minus 50 or so seconds to the launch of Artemis II. We'll be listening in for the call and, of course, have coverage after the launch takes place.
But honor any holds that could come from the ground. Now, shortly after liftoff, Houston will take control of the rocket, and my colleague Gary Jordan will take over commentary.
GLS is go for area left.
Great call out. The rocket is on its own. 4 brave explorers ready to ride the most powerful rocket NASA has ever launched. Sound suppression water is flowing.
15.
And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7. RS-25 engines lit. 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition. And liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Good roll pitch.
Roger, roll pitch.
Houston now controlling the flight of Integrity on the Artemis II mission around the moon.
Integrity, AMT high.
AMT high.
On time passing 30 seconds into the flights. Integrity passes the alternate MECO. Target milestone. Mission Control Houston seeing good performance on the main engines. Space Launch System core stage. Integrity, 3 miles in altitude. Traveling more than 1,200 miles per hour. Mission elapsed time, passing 1 minute, approaching max Q.
On, Ponce de Leon.
Stan, we have you loud and clear on Ponce de Leon.
Have you the same.
Communication signal transfer confirmed as Integrity and its crew go supersonic. Approaching 90 seconds into the Artemis II mission. Integrity is 14 miles in altitude, 8 miles downrange, traveling more than 2,600 miles per hour. minute 50 seconds of mission elapsed time. Standing by for main engine throttle down to 85%, ahead of solid rocket booster separation, expected at the 2 minute 9 second mark. We see throttle down. Confirmed separation. Main engines throttling up, guidance converged.
Integrity, guidance converged, performance nominal, upper stage RCS ready.
Copy all, Stan.
Integrity, SM priming complete.
SM priming complete.
2 minutes 45 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. Thrusters on Integrity and upper stage confirmed in a ready state, ahead of service module fairing separation. 3 minutes into the flight. Integrity, 49 miles in altitude, 78 miles downrange, now passing 5,000 miles per hour. Standing by for launch abort system jettison.
Houston Integrity, good last jettison, great view.
Copy jettison, Team Eco 8+02.
We see the same on board, Stan.
And Houston has you loud and clear on TDRS at the Kármán line.
Outstanding, Stan, we have you the same.
3 minutes 50 seconds into the flight of Artemis II, Wiseman, Glover, Cook, and Hansen cross the boundary to space with good comm checks. GPS signals acquired after last jettison now working on internal checks to verify accuracy. Flight Dynamics Officer analyzed the time of main engine cutoff, confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds, time of MECO.
Integrity, GPS processing.
Outstanding, Stan. We see the same, and we have a beautiful moonrise. We're headed right at it.
Approaching 5 minutes into the flight, Commander Reed Wiseman confirms he has visuals of his destination. GPS guidance, navigation, and control software finishes internal checks and sends to navigation channels.
Integrity, 3 engine press.
3 engine press.
On time, now passing 5 minutes 20 seconds of mission elapsed time into the Artemis II mission. At this point, 3 good main engines are all that's needed to carry Integrity to a nominal main engine cutoff target. Though at this time, we're seeing 4 good engines here in Mission Control Houston. Integrity, 75 miles in altitude, 330 miles downrange, approaching 10,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, looking good at 6 minutes.
Same on board, Stan.
Good trajectory and engine performance. Booster officer will soon report the shutdown plan to Flight Director Judd Friedling, expected at the 7-minute mark. Integrity, 78 miles in altitude, 460 miles downrange.
Integrity, expect nominal shutdown.
Integrity copies nominal shutdown.
Six minutes 40 seconds of mission elapsed time. Shutdown plan is as expected. Again, the time of MECO was confirmed at 8 minutes 2 seconds into the flight. 7 minutes of mission elapsed time. Throttling down as we approach the abort once around option. Milestone at the 7-minute 30-second mark. Now 84 miles in altitude, 650 miles downrange, traveling more than 15,000 miles per hour.
Integrity, AOA open.
AOA open.
The window is now open for an abort once around option that would target splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. Still following nominal ascent at this time. About 10 seconds remaining until the main engine cutoff of the Space Launch System core stage. Standing by for confirmation of MECO and core stage separation.
Integrity and nominal MECO, core stage separated.
We see the same on board, Stan.
Eight minutes, 40 seconds into the flight, we have a nominal main engine cutoff heading in the right trajectory on the way to swing around the moon. Core stage has separated, done its job. The Space Launch System upper stage, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, or ICPS, still attached to the Orion spacecraft. Nine minutes of mission elapsed time. Integrity crew of Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen now in orbit around the Earth at the beginning of their journey to the moon.
Integrity Houston, looking ahead to PRM numbers so far per the pad.
Copy that, Stan. Numbers for the pad.
Capcom Stan Loves now reminding the crew that the perigee raise maneuver time of ignition is as expected prior to booster ignition. That time being 49 minutes, 50 seconds of mission elapsed time.
Integrity, good. NEDS deploy.
Copy that, Stan. Good, Neds.
And Integrity Houston for PWD setup. Just a reminder, halfway open on the secondary.
We copy that, Stan. Halfway open.
Passing 11 minutes of mission elapsed time. Here, overhearing the conversation between Capcom Stan Love and Commander Reed Wiseman, already passing some milestones. We have a good nozzle extension deployment system. That is confirmed. Complete. We also have the visors are confirmed up, now past the dynamic phase of flight, that is ascent. Their launch and entry suits that provided them an extra layer of protection, now not as needed. They're going to raise those visors. And later in today's mission, they will begin to egress or get out of the suits to begin some of their initial tasks of activating some of the systems aboard in the Integrity spacecraft. It's passing 12 minutes of mission elapsed time. Again, the perigee raise maneuver that's targeted near 50 minutes of mission elapsed time, 49 minutes, 50 seconds. That's what the crew is going to be working towards. The Commander Reed Wiseman pilot Victor Glover will focus on preparing for that milestone. In the meantime, mission specialist Christina Koch and Jeremy Hansen will start some of the activation of environmental control life support systems. You may hear confirmation of their activation over the Orion to Earth communication network.
Back here in the Stream Center, 4 astronauts on their way to the moon. We were smiling ear to ear. I want to say hi to my son. My 2-year-old is watching at home, by the way. Yeah, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. NASA launching for the moon with Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen of Canada. Look, it doesn't matter what country you're from today. Mankind is headed back to the moon. They're going to get a trip unlike what we have seen in the last 53 years. And Josh Scott, Garrett Phillips here with us in the Stream Center, guys. It doesn't get much better than this. A successful launch, clearly, as the 4 astronauts are headed to the moon.
I was sitting here going, go, 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 under my breath, just watching that flight, that rocket take off. I mean, I don't know, how long were you guys on the edge of your seats? Because, you know, we all know it's not over till it's over. And now that they're in orbit, we can kind of relax a little bit and enjoy watching, you know, that bar progress as they move towards the solar array wings opening. And the process continues on their journey to the moon. I mean, even just saying that and that being reality is crazy.
I mean, the quote of the entire thing, right, was said by Commander Wiseman. He said, "We have a beautiful moonrise and we're headed straight for it." I mean, come on. That's going to go down in history books. They're going to teach kids about that in school in the coming years, because that's just such a great and beautiful quote. But yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time, obviously, especially for the 4 people that are right there on your screen that are heading towards the moon. That now I'm sure no one is more relieved to have a successful launch than they are.
And the families, of course, you know, of course, there's tremendous confidence and that they're in great hands with NASA, but to actually get, you know, past launch and, you know, begin the journey to the moon officially from LEO, low Earth orbit. I mean, that's just, you can't even imagine what it's like for the families of the 4 astronauts as they are watching from right here with us on planet Earth. So a 10-day journey is now officially underway that will begin here today on April 1st and go all the way through till roughly April 10th. The crew will be traveling 1.3 million miles. Orion will be reaching about 5,000 miles beyond the moon. It is the first crewed flight of Orion behind SLS Space Launch System, the most powerful rocket ever built. Again, as a reminder, this is Artemis II. This is a lunar flyby. This is not a landing on the moon. It's just, you know, the best trip that you can have otherwise without landing on it, getting really close and basically flying around it before returning back to Earth. Orion's reentry speed, when it does make it back down to Earth, will be at 25,000 miles an hour before they splash down in the Pacific Ocean. We've conducted several interviews over the last couple days. Josh, I know that you have spearheaded that effort. And as we talk to people in relation to this, there is no relaxing for anybody associated with this mission until they have a successful splashdown. So while people might think that right now there is this relief that has set, I'm sure there's a little bit of relief at NASA, but they won't be fully able to exhale and look back on the journey that was until we have a splashdown in the Pacific 10 days from now.
I want to contextualize this because you said something important, right? This is not the mission that puts human feet on the moon. Again, this is going to go around it over the course of 10 days. But this is incredibly necessary. If you view these as steps, right? We are on step 2, basically. If you view the Artemis missions as steps, there were 11 Apollo missions before Buzz Aldrin took a step on the moon. The difference here, we only need 4 from Artemis. That's the current planned trajectory here. That's less than half of the missions, and that tells you a little bit what 50 years will get you in science and research and technology development. But it is really incredible to see something like this. And now, for us now, we kind of sit back, we relax. As you mentioned, there's not a lot of relaxation happening for people at mission control yet. A lot of things still have to happen. That main front hatch in one of our interviews that we discussed has to detach from that system, do a full 180, and then try to reattach itself, just because that's a capability that they need to know that they have in order to, again, get to Artemis 4 and eventually put people on the moon. So again, this is a massive step for that mission of getting human beings back to the moon, because of all the things they're going to test that need to be applicable and that we need to be capable of.
Right, and we've just passed 18 minutes. That's how long into this step we are over that 10 days. They're going to circle the moon for like 25 hours before they come back to try and, of course, as you mentioned, splash down back here on Earth in roughly the 10-day period. Next year, Artemis 3, that's the plan, is to put a kind of a lunar launch test, basically, into orbit again, and that will be the third step, as you mentioned, in that 4-step plan. Then in 2028, that is the hope, is that they are going to launch Artemis 4, and that Artemis 4 will be the mission that puts feet back on the moon for the first time in almost 6 decades. It's been a long time since we have been out onto the moon, if you will. And so, yeah, of course, this is a really big and exciting step for everybody involved. And, for all of us down here, we are merely spectators, but it is still such an exciting and incredible moment to watch and be a part of in history, because, again, that this is something that they're going to teach in schools for years to come, and you get to say you were there to watch it.
A trio of milestones here that I think are worth noting. First time a woman flies on a lunar mission. The first time a black astronaut flies on a lunar mission. The first time a Canadian astronaut flies on a lunar mission. So 3 significant milestones as we continue to send more and more people from different walks of life, from different places on our beautiful planet into outer space. And perhaps one day we'll look back at this moment in time and say, wow, were we really just on one planet? One day, maybe thousands of years from now, will we look back and say, there was a time when we just had Earth as a home? Yeah. We'll be long gone by then. Yeah. But that is part of this mission, is to go farther than we ever have with Artemis. And that, of course, isn't just with the moon. Artemis missions in the future will be pushing the limits of where we have been in this universe. It's wondrous to think about.
I have a question for everyone, including the chat, to chew on.
Let's get the chat. Yeah, let's get the chat involved.
China has an expressed desire to put some of their astronauts on the moon before 2030, another major superpower. Artemis 4 right now, as we talked, that would be the mission in which we hope to do it early 2028, which is bizarre even thinking about, because that's 2 years. Do we feel like we're on the precipice of another space race?
Yes.
And what could that mean, not just for outer space, but things like the MRI machine, which is incredibly important medical technology, came out of the first space race, right? We talk about these tangible things. The ability to have a phone like this that can do everything, can do more than the first Apollo mission computer was able to do. That all came out of that space race. Now, with the technology developments that are here and are coming, I mean, how do we feel about that type of space race existing? I mean,
Josh, I think I know how you feel. I've just faced on
I'm a little excited.
Interview.
Can you tell?
But it's hard not to be. I mean, we're all geeking out about this. How far technically are we going to be, from a technological standpoint, are we going to be in a couple of years once we actually do launch for the moon, as far as a lunar landing mission, as far as putting mankind back on the moon? How far my goodness, think about the advancements in AI in just the last 12 months and how far we have come with artificial intelligence. What is the world going to look like a couple of years from now when we're actually getting ready to watch mankind set foot on the moon once again? These are so many questions that I'm sure. What's interesting about this to me is that these are questions that we're having here on this live stream. I can imagine, especially being a father now, I can imagine so many kids, especially if they're like 5, 6, 7 in that age range right now, asking mom and dad, about this. And also too, is this going to be how many kids watch this? I know it sounds a little bit corny, but I can't help it being a dad these days. How many kids watched this and got inspired by what they watched today? How many kids did you see that were actually there at Cape Canaveral watching with their families, that went there in person because they wanted to be there for this moment in history? We're inspiring an entirely new generation. We had on Dr. Head earlier, who made note. Yeah, you young people. I think he pointed it directly at Josh and talking about the next generation that's going to be carrying this forward. Truly a special day, not just in the history of our foray into space exploration, but just for mankind. It's really it was a treat to be on stream with the two of you today and our entire team, Amanda Hawley, Justin Mosley. We're going to be wrapping up here. Any final thoughts? We have about 30 seconds where we have to wrap up.
Josh, I mean, you're the one that's been excited all this time. I think you need the most time, so go ahead, go for it.
I just think, ladies and gentlemen, what happened here today is not a small feat, and we should not look at it like one. What happened today was a giant leap for mankind, and the steps and the things that will come from the Artemis project are nothing to turn your head to. It is a time to be excited. It is a time to invest in this type of technology. And I can't wait to see where everything else goes from here.
Garrett?
My last thought is simply, Josh, are you going to be on the next one? Because it sounds like you're auditioning, man. Obviously very excited, very cool thing to witness. Wasn't around for the last one, and so it's going to be really cool not only to see the culmination of this mission, but also the next two in 2027 and 2028, when hopefully we finally get to watch another man or woman make their first steps onto the moon again.
We will continue coverage here from the Stream Center in the days ahead as Artemis II gets a little bit closer each and every day to making their flyby of the moon. Check WFLA.com or your Nexstar affiliated website for the latest news updates. It's been a pleasure being here with you from the Stream Center. As we sign off, thank you so much for being here with us from Tampa, Florida, and thank you for being part of our coverage here of Artemis II. We'll see you next time.